So this wasn't the video I intended to do today. I had planned to come on here and talk about something more upbeat, in my usual fashion. But a few minutes ago my younger brother just called me, and then he told me, because I'm not online, and literally, as you guys know, I don't have a social media presence. He informed me that Charlie Kirk had passed. And for those of you who don't know who Charlie Kirk is, he's a big political activist on the right, in the conservative space, essentially. And I follow him because, politically at least, as a result of my standing as a Christian, I guess I identify more with right wing politics. Does that mean I agree with everything they say? No. But by and large, a good chunk of it does sit well with me. And Charlie Kirk is someone I have followed for a very, very long time. And so, I hear this news and I'm stunned, I'm shocked. I mean, every time you hear, a celebrity or someone who's famous, something terrible has happened to them, obviously you feel a deep sense of loss, especially when a parasocial relationship already exists, where you feel like you know them as a result of, their public activities. And so I'm sitting there trying to take everything in. And, it hit me that I feel like one of the big problems in America, especially currently today, I think in the world today, is um, we're getting to a place where politics is becoming very, very touchy. It is very, very hard for you to say what you think without someone else getting offended. And it is very, very hard for you to say what you think without getting offended that someone doesn't agree with you. And I think we're in a space currently where the politics in America is so acerbic, it's so sharp, it's so touchy and violent that anything you say can and will be used against you. And there's no room for disagreement, there's no room for debate. Right now, we're getting to the point where everything has to be violent. If you don't agree with me, you're my enemy, as opposed to just having a different point of view. And I don't think it's healthy. I think, especially even on the gun topic, I think, with the right wing, a lot of right wing activists applaud the idea of, easy access to guns. I'm not one of them. I think it's a terrible idea, and I think this is just another example of why it's terrible. The fact that people can easily access weapons that can take the life of someone in a second in such a public way. It's gruesome. And to be honest, my position on this has and always will be, if we live in a safe society, then there is no need for guns. There's no need for weapons. And so, whether that affects your First Amendment rights or your Second Amendment rights, whatever, I think the most important thing is that we start to create laws that speak to the problems that we have today. And currently, this gun issue is a very, very big one. And again, there are people on the right side that are going to say guns aren't the problem. Talking about guns is an infringement on a possible infringement on the Second Amendment rights. But the most important thing, and I think it should be fairly obvious at this point, with the number of mass shootings that take place in America, with the fact that a former president almost got assassinated, with the fact that you have, a young, very, very popular, outspoken, right-wing activist now attacked. I mean, it should be obvious that guns should be more regulated, and it shouldn't be easy for people to have access to guns and to be able to go out there and do whatever they want. And any Tom, Dick, and Harry can get a gun now. And, in some states, it's cheaper to get a gun than it is to buy a new phone. And as soon as you're 18, you're able to have access to this. So I think it definitely should be harder, right? And I think not doing that is a disservice to the American people. But also for those of us who are immigrants going to these countries, I think it's just days like this just remind us that America, the West, Europe, all of it, it's not as safe as they'd have us believe. I'm not saying Africa is better, but it hits you when you realize that the grass isn't greener on the other side. And I think that points to why we need to be more intentional in building our continent, in building our countries, in building our nations, in building our people, our industries, and ensuring that we can actually create the safe haven that we want for ourselves. Because with the things that are going on in America, in Canada, in Europe, it really feels as if, the world is on fire and the West is its starting point. And if we aren't careful, we will, jump into this flame with them and, help them to fight their wars. God forbid. Yeah, I think it's a very, very, again, like I said, days like this are very, very difficult, very, very hard. When you have to sit down and assess the impact of someone's life, obviously from a celebratory standpoint, but also from the place of sorrow, because there was so much more that was going to come. And I think the biggest lesson from this is, what do Americans do about guns? And also, how can we get to a place where we're comfortable having difficult conversations without feeling like we need to resort to violence? As developed as we are, we seem to be more barbaric in our actions, in our dealings, in our conversation, in the way we conduct our lives, and clearly the society is not better for it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. This is one of my less upbeat videos, but I just thought it's something serious that deserves commenting on and sharing my thoughts on, and that's what I've tried to do. With that said, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk, and we'll continue to pray for him and for his family during this difficult time. Until next time, guys, peace, love and light. Jesus loves you.